Virgo, so this is your astrological full moon horoscope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going through the overview, which is going to express generally what's going on as far as aspects, what's going on with the full moon, where the full moon is within your astrology, and then I'm going to give an evolutionary astrological highlight, Virgo. So let's see. So for you, Virgo, let me go ahead and show you the notes that I took. I'm doing things a little differently. So here's the overview of the full moon, what's going on. I will read this to you in the evolutionary astrological highlight, and then I go on to the prediction for the full moon, which is in regards to the full moon, in depth, the general, not general, but you know, some of the aspects going on with this full moon. Which there's nothing really general about these aspects. So, and then I have, here's the second page, front and back, more of the prediction. And then after I read this to you and go over in the chart, we'll go to the tarot, and I'm doing that a little differently as well. So for you, Virgo, the full moon is taking place in your 12th house. In the sign of Leo, Sun 19 degrees, and the 6th house, the moon 24 degrees, Aquarius conjunct Saturn retrograde 22 degrees. So there's a grand cross occurring in your 12th, 6th, 9th, and 3rd houses. The Sun 19 degrees, Leo 12th house, and the moon 24 degrees, Aquarius conjunct Saturn retrograde 22 degrees, 6th house. The South node 17 degrees, 3rd house, and the North node 17 degrees, Uranus 18 degrees, conjunct Mars 25 degrees in the sign of Taurus, your 9th house. The T-squares here, there's many of them, and they give depth to the information regarding the Grand Cross. And the Grand Cross, this huge big square, is really bringing the pressure on with this full moon. But we've been building up to this full moon, so you've already felt the pressure. We're at the end of it, where it's going to be released. You're going to feel renewed, good about moving into the next, the intention of the next lesson, which is going to be a good thing. So this is only to make us stronger, okay? So finally, there are 3 bisextile aspects occurring, activating 2 of the angular houses for you, your ascendant and descendant, Virgo, and thank you. The first bisextile includes Black Moon Lilith 13 degrees Cancer in your 11th house, Mercury 12 degrees Virgo 1st house, and the South node 17 degrees in Scorpio, your 3rd house. The second bisextile includes Mars 25 degrees Taurus 9th house, Neptune 24 degrees retrograde in your 7th house of Pisces, and Pluto retrograde 26 degrees Capricorn, your 5th house. So the third bisextile includes Black Moon Lilith 13 degrees Cancer 11th house, and then Mercury 12 degrees Virgo 1st house, and the North node 17 degrees in Taurus, your 9th house. So again, there's a lot of energy going on in the sign of Taurus.
I'm using the cable.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you. So there's a lot of energy going on in the sign of Taurus for everyone. And it's important for everyone because the North node there is in Taurus, and so is Uranus. And Uranus is still going to be there for quite some time because it's an outer planet. And its energy is presenting a lot of change, needed change for humanity. So the Aquarian vibe is very much significant during this timeline we're in. And of course, Mars is there, which is in a balsamic phase, and it's moving pretty fast. Mars moves pretty fast. And, you know, it's kind of energizing the theme around here, you know, around the energy of Taurus and the fixity of Taurus, and, you know, what's going on with Uranus on top of the North Node here. So you could just imagine what Mars has added to this area of everyone's chart. So, you know, finally, the evolutionary astrological highlight here is Pluto 26 degrees retrograde 5th house, which is in a first quarter phase within the lunation cycle. So during the evolutionary astrological highlight, I just pick out a planet at random, or I'll kind of see, that way I give it variety, because I don't want to do the same one for everyone, for every sign. However, even though that part would be similar, everyone has these planets in a different area of their chart. So, you know, it would be different, but I kind of want to give variety to, you know, each sign's prediction. And I'm throwing some things in there that you can also kind of learn and use as some wisdom going forward to do, you know, your predictions, or just something that you could take for food for thought. And also, you can always refer back to these full moon horoscopes to kind of see what was going on during the time in your life, and kind of reflect and just understand. So they'll always be up for that reason, which is good, you know. Understanding really helps with a lot of inner peace, and get a peace of mind. And sometimes things don't make sense until after something happens. So to refer back to it, it will give you some peace in that way. So the evolutionary astrological highlight, I chose Pluto, and it's at 26 degrees retrograde 5th house, and it's in a first quarter phase within the lunation cycle, and it's in the sign of Capricorn, yes. And Dan Rudyard quoted this phase as being, quote, a crisis in action. So the need to manifest these new patterns emphasized during the new phase is nudging the soul to test different things. And these things could be anything from relocating, new ideologies, new spiritual path, different line of work, etc. And also with this phase, there is a lot of pressure not to backtrack or become stagnant or resistant to these new soul intentions of patterning anew. So Pluto 26 degrees retrograde Capricorn 5th house is making a trine first quarter phase aspect to Mars 25 degrees Taurus in the 9th house. So a trine is a harmonious aspect, of course. So, you know, this will be something that can help, you know, with the evolutionary intention of the soul, because a first quarter phase is right before the gibbous phase. And I'm going to go over how I interpret the 8 phases in the lunation cycle according to evolutionary astrology. And the first quarter phase, it's getting there because the gibbous phase is bringing on the intensity to nudge the soul to really change, evolve. You know, growing isn't always easy, so just keep that in mind. And then, so with Pluto 26 degrees retrograde in a first quarter phase, in the lunation cycle, the 5th house Capricorn, it's suggesting that action needs to be taken to initiate a new evolutionary development of self-authenticity, the 5th house. And the crisis here is to build and materialize it, your self-authenticity, 5th house, in the sign of Cancer, because Cancer, you know, is about, you know, building, structuring, and materializing it, you know, bring it here in the 3D in form. So Pluto 26 degrees retrograde is also within itself in a balsamic phase, 26 degrees, and needs to integrate and reflect retrograde. integrate and reflect. This new evolutionary intent to put some structure, Capricorn, a newly fresh, realized, and more authentic, which is Capricorn's nature here. Because the thing about Saturn, it wants you to embrace the spirit, which is self-authenticity at its core. And I'm going to go through something else that came to me, which is very profound. Oh my goodness. I can't even, when I think about how, you know, spirituality, religion, and our planets and everything symbolically, you know, some of the correlations that I get to put everything together just blow my mind. Honestly, it does. But Saturn, Capricorn wants you to embrace spirit, self-authenticity at its rawest, most spontaneous, innocent form, because it's pure. It's pure. That's what Saturn wants, is purity. Purity. Inside out, really, but inside, yes. So, let me see where I'm at. Pluto's 26 degrees, yes, retrograde is in a balsamic phase, but then, yes, and then the needs to integrate and reflect, retrograde, this new evolutionary intent to put some structure, Capricorn, a newly fresh, realized, and more authentic, Capricorn, you know, nature. So the trine aspect within the first quarter lunation phase with Pluto 26 degrees retrograde, 5th house Capricorn, and Mars 25 degrees Taurus, 9th house, perhaps needs the native to pioneer Mars new territory, long distance, 9th house. So the soul can experience a different pasture, Taurus. So to say, in order to stimulate the senses differently so one does not backslide because of the same people, places, and things. So the bottom line here, yeah, let me read this again. So that the soul does not backslide because of the same people, places, and things. And let's just keep in mind that you could keep, you know, stimulus response phenomena. So, you know how like stimulus response, if you smell something or experience something, see something, hear something, same environment, same neighborhood, same you know, job or the way of doing something or using the same, it's like a stimulus response that can kind of take you back. So the point is to try something new, see something new, try something different, experience something different, taste something different, use something different, so that a different stimulus can be received, because these stimulus responses, what we feel inside, it does create our external here. So if we want to change our inside, we have to do it as well with, you know, people, places, and things, because it's stimulating a response from our stimulus response phenomena. And that's important to note, so that you don't fall back into old, you know, patterns because of, you know, the stimulus response phenomena. So the bottom line, the soul wants to experience fun from the new in order to evolve to the next step. So Mars will enable courage, energy, and drive to do so, and Pluto and Capricorn can help structure a plan for perfect execution. So that is something to look forward to for your soul. That is very, you know, positive, uplifting. Think about, and insightful and detailed, and, you know, I mean, sounds amazing to me. So on to your full moon prediction. So the full moon is occurring in your 12th, 6th house, the sun being at 19 degrees. If you want to, let's zoom in and see if we can see a little bit of this chart. So the sun is at 19 degrees Leo, which Leo rules your 12th house here, Virgo. And then the moon is 24 degrees right here in Aquarius, retrograde, conjunct the moon's not retrograde, excuse me, Saturn's retrograde 22 degrees in the same sign Aquarius conjunct the moon here. So the sun, the spirit, is at odds with the soul, the moon, because they're in oppositions. And when I say odd, this is just, you know, my terminology, because it's a good thing, you know, being at opposition here regarding the luminaries. They must stand off here and be at odds, you know. So each month, in order to counterbalance their innate will desire, each luminary imposes here on the body. So you think, you know, this circle here, well, you know, the body is represented by the rising sign, but just imagine, you know, the body being in between the sun, the spirit, and the moon, the soul, which is also your body as well, need to counterbalance there. So the side note here is the sun, the spirit, wants to self-individuate its most authentic nature, and which is spontaneous, and the moon, the soul, has an emotional connection with evolution that's internal yin and grows through the feeling of experiences. So the sun, the spirit here, is yang masculine and externalizing. So the spirit, the sun, has a devotion to its external world to express itself. However, it needs the moon right here, soul's participation, which is why the luminaries have this dance with each other throughout the month, or day, or even light, dark, night, and day, in order to, you know, find that balance so they can work with one another through the body. So the sun, the spirit right here, and the moon, the soul, use the body to continue karma. So when does this cycle ever end? Question mark is what I ask. That I don't know. But I'm curious to find out. It'd be very interesting to find out. So back to you, Virgo. This full moon is culminating the lesson of sacrificing one's ego-driven desires, the sun here in Leo in your 12th house, in order to align with some sort of service to humanity, the 6th house here in Aquarius. And this is apparent because Saturn also means service. And since it's retro, there's the need to decondition how service is conducted. But because the moon here is needing security in regards to a genuine emotional connection through service that is more heartfelt, opposed to forceful will or desires from an inflated ego. So the Grand Cross here is activating, or we could say working on houses 12, 6, 3, and 9. In Virgo, there is something significant with detailed knowledge that you have circulated within the nearby community